All right, folks, we are back. We are at NG Atlanta again. This time I'm with Jason Jean and Danielle. Sheehan. Now, you guys just got done talking about Angular Universal, which is really interesting. I personally work on some apps where, SEO is kind of important, things like that. And so having Angular Universal as an option is important. Do you want to just talk briefly about Angular Universal, what it is, and then what you showed in your demo in the main conference room?
Yeah, so Angular Universal is basically Angular on the server side. So it basically allows you to take the same app that you built for the browser and run that on the server and make sure that all the content that you want to be server rendered is there just using the same Angular code.
Right. So essentially it takes all of that dynamic content that people put together and at least you get it in its initial state.
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome.
So what I was going to say was, concerning the demo app, we actually demoed an app that was, we chose 20 fictional women from various medias, and we compiled a list. So what we did is we kind of showed server-side rendering, how on the first render HTML would load. We would have, for a typical list page, you'd have individual profiles load up, and then when you navigate, that is when you would see particularly like API calls being made.
Right.
And then we also showed our meta tags and how that would benefit SEO.
That makes sense. Now, was this primarily like an Express app or a Node.js app, or can you do this with other systems as well?
So you can do this with many different systems. We showed off a Express app, but the base API basically just lets you get a string out of it, and you can do many things with that.
Cool. So what gave you the idea to pull this talk together?
So Zach reached out to me, and he was basically, you guys should do a talk on Universal, since we have no talks about that yet. And a lot of people are curious about how Universal works. It seems kind of complex, and they're not sure how to get started. So a lot of people want to hear about it at conferences.
Gotcha. It's funny how often that happens with the conferences. We need to talk on X. Who do I know that knows X? There you go. Is this something that you use at work? Or
Yes. So we work for Forbes, and Forbes definitely uses this on their article pages. It allows them to show content as soon as possible. And in the media industry, that's really critical to get users their content.
Gotcha. So at Forbes, is it an Express app there as well? Or was that just the easiest way to set it up? Okay.
It is also an Express app, yes.
Awesome. So what are some of the gotchas with Angular Universal? What are some of the things that people run into that they might be getting wrong or struggle with as they get it set up?
So one of the things is that it is two separate applications, and a lot of people, just because you're writing your code once, kind of sort of think that it's one application. So they expect if it works on the browser, then it just works on the server. But that's not necessarily true. Sometimes there's differences between the server and browser, which you should solve on a low level, and that's probably where most people get confused about what's going on. But I'd say after a while of using it, this kind of goes away and the understanding is better.
Gotcha. So when you say that it's two applications, how is it two applications? Is it just that it's run on the server and on the client, or does it do things differently when you're running it in Angular Universal?
So it's your same application, your components and your providers, but it gets a little wrapper around it. So when you want to deploy it to the browser, you give it a browser module, and if you want to deploy it to the server, then you give it a server module.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Now, what are your job roles at Forbes?
Well, I'm a front-end developer. I mostly work with the article page. So that's where I get my info from Angular Universal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm the tech lead on the article page.
Right, so you do all the work.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And you manage.
I'm very bossy.
Yeah.
Not true.
Actually, no. It's kind of
Danielle's
it's like the
amazing.
reverse. I'm kind of a bossy one.
There we go. Office politics, folks. That's awesome. So you just showed people how to set it up. What in particular were the steps that you went through in your talk to show people how to get it going? Because I'm assuming it's not just something you plug in and you go, yay, server side.
Right, you wish. No,
So we the CLI lets you do this very easily. You generate a regular app like you would, and then you can add Universal on afterwards. So I showed how that works, and then basically went through all the big like core APIs that allow you to do this. And Danielle showed a bunch of stuff about how to take advantage of the server-side rendering.
yeah.
Awesome. So what kinds of load times are we seeing from this?
Well, for like our app, it was about 2.5 seconds when we start to actually render, and by actually about less than 5 seconds, our app was fully rendered, and we actually showed a comparison between that and a non-server side version. And by the time our server side rendered app was completely loaded, non-server side was less than halfway complete.
Oh, really?
And this is on Mobile 3G, and it actually appeared sooner than Google does.
We
But
took
this
great
is
pride
like-
in that.
This is a very simple app, and like many people should be able to pull that off if it's very simple. There's just important things for every different application out there that could still make this slow. So it's still important to monitor your load times and not just expect it to be the silver bullet that fixes all problems.
Right. I was going to say 2.5 to 5 seconds. It seems like a long time for a page load. But
Not when it's like an average phone on 3G connection,
Oh,
which has
okay.
really slow network.
Oh, I gotcha. So we're talking 3G, which
Sorry.
So on a desktop on a good connection, this would show up in under half a second.
Oh, good deal. Okay. I was going to say, oh man.
Yeah, that could honestly be a little bit of a bummer, but
Yeah.
no.
Well, cool. So if people want to watch your talk, are there things that people should be doing to prepare, or is this just a nice intro to get people a ways down the road so that they can get this started wherever they're working?
I mean, I think this is a good intro. We did include, of course, like resources that if you want to go further, and we did link, of course, to our GitHub so everybody can kind of play around with the app itself if they just want a quick app to enjoy. But, I think, we did kind of go down the road with some like advanced techniques that can be utilized. But no, I think it's a really great like foundation for if you're interested in maybe kind of looking at Angular Universal and then going further with it.
Right. So one other question that I have about this is that I kind of grew up writing Ruby on Rails apps, right? So it's not Express. Is this something that you can kind of bolt on the front of Ruby on Rails or Django or .NET or whatever and have it server render your stuff after the initial rendering by whatever server-side engine you're using?
Yeah, so you can run this as its own executable that just gives you a string. And right now there's integrations for .NET already, and it basically has a Node.js app under the hood, and the .NET application hooks into the Node.js application and gets the rendered version.
Cool. Was there anything else that people should know about Angular Universal?
Give it a shot.
Yeah,
I
it's
think-
definitely worth a try. Like, you could, it's very much like, there might be some people who are like, meh, I don't know. But no, definitely like go in there, play in that sandbox. Yeah.
It'll definitely help your SEO and probably your start render times, but you should see a lot of bonuses in SEO and social sharing.
Awesome. Now, if people want to see what you all are working on going forward, are you on Twitter, GitHub, that kind of thing, where people can look you up?
So I'm on Twitter. I'm at Frozen Pandas. You can follow me there.
Frozen Pandas?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And that's also my GitHub handle, so you can follow my work there as well.
And I'm at Danny B. Sheehan. Fortunately, not as awesome as Frozen Pandas.
Yeah, but you're still awesome.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, one last bit of business. Progress sponsored my trip out here, so I just want to shout out about them and thank them for sending us out. If you need smart components, interesting components, you're doing a lot of data stuff, Kendo UI is your tool. It's awesome. So definitely check that out. And thank you both for sitting down with me for a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.